absolutely magnificent. If it's as good as this, you'll be doing well. Now, this is one of my favourite recipes, and it's also from a favourite restaurant called K. Paul's. Now, K. Paul's is in New Orleans, and it's owned by Paul Prudhomme and his wife, Kay. I don't know whether she's still with us. I don't think she is. But anyway, I hope she is. Anyway, there is a point to the story, is he's the man who created blackened fish. And, of course, New Orleans is very famous for gumbos and etouffees and fricassees and all these lovely things, and they do tend to have these spice mixes. Tabasco, of course, or hot sauce, not just necessarily Tabasco, is part of it. But the other part, which is very important to all their cooking, is what they call, I'm sorry, I'm just putting half a cup of ghee in there, melted ghee in there. I will keep on talking. What they call the holy trinity of vegetables. That's a very important part. And what it is onion, capsicum, and celery. And it's all diced fairly finely. And what is in there is 1.5 cups of diced onion, 1.5 cups of diced capsicum, green, and 1 cup of diced celery. So that is what is called the Holy Trinity, my friends. And I'm not being blasphemous, it's just what they call it in New Orleans, because they think it's essential to their cooking. And to that we then add a couple of crushed cloves of garlic, crushed or finely sliced, it's up to you. And I did say the 1/2 cup of ghee. Now, you know what ghee is. Ghee is basically a clarified butter. And when you clarify it, you get rid of all the milk solids. So it's a purer form of butter. Right, so we just saute those veggies until they're reasonably tender. And if you've got a chance, Brendan, if you're not a little too busy, what I've got over here is I've got a couple of chicken breasts, which I'm going to shred at the end. And what I've done with those is I put them in water. I've brought them to the boil and I've simmered them very gently for 7 minutes, and then I turn that off and leave it for 20 minutes. And that'll mean that it'll be very tender, and we shred those at the end, as I said. But the main thing at this moment is just to cook those veggies until they're reasonably tender. Now, I've been to K. Paul's a few times. Terrific restaurant. I love the blackened fish, but you know the thing that I love most about it, very clever, which is a bit of an American thing, is you walk in the room and there's the most beautiful smell of baking bread. And I sort of looked around the first time, and there in the middle of the dining room was the bread oven. And they were bringing out bread all night from that bread oven. So, very clever idea. You know how a real estate agent always says to you, if you want to sell your house, when you're showing it, put some bread in the oven, because the smell helps people to make up their mind. Well, I don't know whether that's true or not. I really don't. But can I tell you, it certainly whets your appetite when you walk into K. Paul's and there is this beautiful smell of bread. Right. See, while I was talking, my vegetables are cooked. Now, this is the other important thing about Cajun and Creole cooking. It's the roux. So I've got 1/2 cup of flour, which I'm going to mix in. And then I'm going to turn the heat down, and I'm going to cook that until it's got some colour. That roux has to have colour. That's what gives the gumbo and the etouffees and all those Cajun and Creole dishes, that's what gives them their nutty flavour, because they all have a nutty flavour. So it's all to do with that roux. They tend to do it separately and then add it to the liquid. I prefer doing it like this, but it is up to you. So when I say they do it separately, they melt the ghee, they add the flour, and they cook that until it gets quite a brown colour. I'm not going to do it quite like that, but I am certainly going to get some colour in it, all right? Take about 10, 15 minutes. Just keep an eye on it, though, please. You know, you want it brown, but you don't want it black. I'll just get it light golden, to be honest. Oh, we've got some colour there. About a tablespoon of onion powder. And a couple of teaspoons of cayenne. And we'll just mix that in to toast it. Just scraping all that brown roux off the bottom. You can see it's on the bottom of the pot. So you scrape that as you go. And then we add a litre of chicken stock. And we'll most probably add a little bit more as we go on, up to 1.5 litres, I reckon. But let's see how we go. And some salt. And some pepper. And we'll cook that for about 20 minutes until it's rich and full of flavour. And then we'll start thinking about the chicken and maybe some Tabasco. As I said, depending on how thick it is, you might add a little bit more stock, all right? All right, guys, that's looking pretty good. Let's just throw in our chicken, which I have shredded. And it's still warm, the chicken, but needs a little bit more heating. I should have moved that spoon, shouldn't I? Oh, well, it'll work. Some parsley in there. And then I'm just going to taste it for seasoning, and I'm going to add some Tabasco. Now, the Tabasco is to taste. So it's up to you how hot you want it. You know, there's a little bit of heat in anyway. Because there's cayenne in it. It needs some salt. Quite a bit, actually. And some pepper. And some Tabasco. Now, I'm a Tabasco freak, so I put quite a bit in, but that is up to you. And if you're not sure about your guest, say you've made a bowl of this or a pot of this for your guest, just, sorry, guys, just add the Tabasco at the table. Just put it down there and they can add as much or as little as they like. Let's just serve. Because as I said, that chicken was still warm, so it just needed the smallest bit of heating. All right. Now, surprisingly, I've made a mess. Here we go with our chucks. Don't know what I did before I had chucks. I know what I did. I used to use paper towels, and people used to write to me and say, did you realise you've just used 3 trees to wipe your plate? I think I've told you that one before. Anyway, a lovely gumbo, nice flavours, pretty simple. Always remember the Holy Trinity, the roux, the Tabasco, those are the essentials. All right, maybe it's not quite as good as Kay Paul's. His was pretty special, but, you know, it's on the way. Now, this is an interesting stew, and it is a stew. I mean, it might be from India, but it is a stew. And the reason it's interesting because I have derived it from a recipe from one of my books, and I've forgotten the book. I hate to tell you, but anyway, the point of the story is it seems like it could be a bit dry because there's no stock. But because we're not sealing the beef, we're just putting it in actually as is, I presume it then makes its own stock. We will find out. If I find it drying out, I'll add a little bit of chicken stock, all right, guys? But as I said, I'm not too sure about a couple of leaves or stalks of curry leaves, and also 1 red onion, which I have just cut in wedges. And when I say it's a stew, I mean, this is not a highly spiced dish. It's got a bit of a kick, but, you know, we're not talking about blow your head off. So basically, it is just a stew with a few other different flavourings. So we'll just toss that in some hot olive oil, and to that we'll then add quite a lot of garlic, about between 4 and 6 cloves of garlic sliced, a good teaspoon of matchsticks or julienne of fresh ginger, a couple of chilies which have been seeded and then sliced. And I certainly could do with a little bit more oil. I'm a bit light on oil. But do remember, if you find it's drying out a bit, just add some stock or even some water, to be honest. I prefer stock, I have to be honest, because it gives more depth of flavour. And the packet stock, you know, a good packet stock's fantastic for a dish like this. What we next add is some spices. Firstly, a couple of teaspoons of garam masala and a couple of teaspoons of ground coriander, 1 good teaspoon of ground turmeric, and we just toast those, just to release their aroma. And to that I then add about a heaped teaspoon of chilli paste. In this case, I've used sambal. And into that, we then put a kilo of cubed beef. Along with half a can of diced tomatoes. Some salt, quite a bit of it. And let's just mix that up really, really well. Now, the important thing for this, I still reckon I'm going to need a bit of water, but anyway, the important thing with this is that you have to have a tight cover, and that's why this cast iron casserole is perfect, because it's got a tight, heavy cover. And all I'm then going to do is put that on, and I'm going to turn that heat right down. And when I say right down, I just want it bubbling. And we're going to cook it for about an hour and a quarter, hour and a half, until it's tender. And as I said, the beef is going to exude its own stock, I think. Isn't it funny when you do some recipes and you know, I'm not being silly here, but you do a recipe and you think to yourself, I don't know whether this is going to work. And then at the end of it, it turns out and it's brilliant. And I haven't made this before, as I'm sure you can understand. But, you know, it may be brilliant. But just keep an eye on it, just in case. But remember, very low heat. Thank you. I think it's going to be good. Cheers.
Small unit, massive headache.
Unless we accept a huge loss on this property, we are stuck.
With strata restrictions and a limited budget, it's proving hard to sell.
This isn't going to be easy.
Any ideas?
Should we contact it instead?
Not on my watch, girlfriend.
It's not just what you know, but who you know that counts.
Do you realise your talent? You are a magician.
Just wait till you see the backyard.
Wow!
New Selling Houses Australia, tonight, 8:30 on Lifestyle.
Debt. Gone. Stress. Gone. Hassles. Gone. Too much debt? Beyond Debt has helped thousands of Australians with debt problems. You do have options. If you have debts of $8,000 or more, call Beyond Debt for a free consultation. Don't put it off. Life's better when you're Beyond Debt. Call 1300 871 603 now for a free consultation, or go to beyonddebt.com.au.
It's often called the fifth major. Golf's biggest names take on one of its most famous courses. Fox Sports has an exclusive 24-hour channel with every round live.
Jason Day, 2016 Players Champion.
The Players Championship live on Fox Sports. How good is it?
Okay, Gogglebox Australia might be over for now, but don't fret. There's a whole new bunch of Goggleboxes to fall in love with. They've just got accents and drink more tea.
Are you with me?
No.
And when it comes to telly, just like us, they all love a good movie night.
Oh my God, he's starkers. And he got no clothes on whatsoever.
No.
Oh, I wish I had a 60-inch telly.
It's big. New Gogglebox UK, tonight, 7:30 on Lifestyle.
Now, Brendan, I have to say, I was wrong. Just come and have a look here, mate. Look at that, lovely thick sauce. Because I was worried about it, wasn't I? Anyway, we'll just turn that off because I'm going to add some yoghurt. So be very careful when you add the yoghurt because it can curdle. So what you do is you put a little bit in like that and then you mix it very quickly. If you're worried about it, all you can do is just put it on the top. I like it in the sauce. It just adds that extra bit of flavour. So you do a little bit then, and then we do a little bit more. And you put as much or as little as you like in, but just a little at a time. The other way you can do it is you can put a little bit of flour into the yoghurt, which will stop it from splitting, but as you can see, that's not happening, so it doesn't matter. And what I've also got there is some fresh coriander, which we'll throw in. And I'm just going to check the seasoning before I serve it. That's a nice sauce. Just have a taste. Don't turn it back on once you put the yogurt because it then will split. Oh, that's lovely. Doesn't need any more seasoning. That is delightful. Obviously, we'd serve this with some rice. It's just a lovely, mildly spiced Indian-influenced dish with some lovely flavours. Alrighty guys, just a grab of a fresh chucks. Clean it up a bit. If you like, you can put a little bit more yogurt on top. You can certainly put some greenery. And I'm really pleased with that dish. I'm intrigued by it. Well, I learn something every day. I know you're sitting at home saying, I knew that had happened. But anyway, it's a delightful sauce without any stock, just a little bit of tomato and the natural juices from the beef. Beautiful. Very keen on that. Now, this is a test, my friends, because it's from a book called The Kitchen Therapist by Jo Richardson. And she teaches you how to make things that you have messed up, tells you all the problems. Now, I have never made a decent batch of chocolate chip cookies, so hopefully, with the help of Jo, it's all going to change. We'll see how we go. 112 grams of brown sugar packed into that small bowl, 165 of caster sugar, 250 of fairly soft butter, unsalted, of course. And then you wipe your hands. She said that. No, she didn't. I just made that one up. 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, not essence. Let's make sure. The last time I said that, I looked at the jar and found that I was using essence. So I had to retract very quickly. So 1 teaspoon of that. Now, I'll just leave that off for a minute because I think that's a good idea. I didn't put it on properly. 1 large egg at room temperature. 405 grams of flour. 2 tablespoons. Oops. I thought I was going to be really clever and get that off. 2 tablespoons of Dutch cocoa. A little bit more in because it's not a tablespoon, is it? 150 grams of chocolate chips and a pinch of cinnamon. Now, let's put that on. I should have done that anyway, shouldn't I? Where are we? I know it's here somewhere. There you go. And you start it off on the lowest speed, just to get it to come together, which is over here, so we'll do that. And then when it has come together a bit, you turn it up to medium. Now that's looking good, so let's just whip that out. I'll just do that carefully. Let's just get it out from the blades. And we just want to roll these into balls now, about the size of a tablespoon. And the other thing is, please remember, 1, very clean hands, and 2, plenty of space because they will spread. And the oven, 150 degrees fan forced, and the bottom third of the oven. So into the oven, cook them for about 20 minutes until they're firm, and keep your fingers crossed. Anyway, it's always nice when I make a mess up, because you know why? You can have a good chortle at me. So shake your head and say, my goodness, that man can't pretend he's a pastry cook, can he? Anyway, we'll see how it turns out. They may be brilliant. In spite of me, they may be brilliant. I love this quote from Norm. He said, if your eyes hurt after you've been drinking coffee, maybe you should have taken the spoon out. Cheers, Guy. I hope you enjoyed today's show.
We'll be running the longest, heaviest train we've